Welcome back to Digital by Design, where we talk all digital all the time. You like that, huh? That's very nice. That was cool. See how natural that was? I'm here with Norbert, a good friend of mine that I've known for, we're almost 20 years now. Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time. And we had a course this weekend, so of course you flew down from Charlotte, spent a couple days out here. We went to the wineries yesterday, had some good wine, and so I'm very excited that you're here today. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Frankie. This is awesome. This is a beautiful setup that you have here. Yeah. And, it's always exciting to see what you do. It's always exciting to see, attend the training classes.
Oh, yeah.
And, every time I come out here, there's a new building added or a new suite added to the lab and to the academy.
The whole Marietta.
And yes, exactly. Yeah. And this is just mind blowing to see, what a beautiful journey you are on.
No, but you know what? That journey actually started with you, my friend. Like I said, when we first met, I saw things that I had never seen in my life, right? Because I was a dental tech. I'm, most of the dental techs out there, I only knew how to do one thing: sit behind a bench, paint teeth, create teeth, do everything that I do. But I never really knew like the real world. And when I first met you and stuff, we were, I'll never forget, you came and visited me. You kind of told me like, hey, you're doing very well in CEREC Connect. And, it started off from there. Yeah. And you kind of took me out of my little world and showed me kind of like what the whole world was really about when it comes to marketing, when it comes to, creating a business. I mean, this is exciting. I mean, look at this studio.
Yeah.
I mean, look how amazing it is. You know what I'm saying?
This is
it's
top notch.
It's top notch.
Yeah.
This is a lab, by the way. Yeah. You didn't even know. There's printers in this room.
Well, this started out as a lab, Yeah. But when we first met, I think your tagline was "all CEREC all the time."
Yep.
And that by itself, of course, made a statement as to which niche that you wanted to focus on, that you wanted to be a dedicated support lab for, but it also demonstrated commitment, because it demonstrated that you are all in, and and I believe that that's what has basically driven and propelled your progress, over the last decades. But also, I really like how this all CEREC all the time ultimately crystallized itself in the title for this podcast.
Yeah.
Digital by Design. In my opinion, that is an elevation of the whole digital journey that you have taken, because back in the days when you started, there was only CEREC.
Yeah.
And so, of course, it made perfect sense to say, to focus on all CEREC all the time.
Yeah.
But since then, technology has evolved. Manufacturers have seen the opportunity and the potential and the benefits that this digital journey can bring to the digital workflow. Yeah, and digital workflows have evolved. And you build your laboratory around the digital workflows, and you created your own flows, optimized some others, and now you have taken this, to a whole other dimension where, you started out with a lab that very quickly adopted education.
Yeah.
Even that education was...
We knew it was there. It needed to be there.
Exactly. Yeah. And technology can be very overwhelming and overwhelming for everybody involved, because it is, for one, we're all busy with running our businesses, running our labs, running dental practices. And we don't have the time to become specialists in business development. So it is good to have resources out there. So as you basically created the workflows and then tested them in your own lab, and then basically brought this knowledge to education. Initially, it was in-person education, but again, with the digital evolution, now all the education you do is in-person and digital.
Yeah,
so you always kept, the human touch.
Yeah.
Technology evolves and empowers, but it never loses the human touch. And then now with your production studio here, I mean, this is probably what you could find otherwise, in in a NASDAQ listed Fortune 500 company. I don't know. But no, tools in the digital world, tools are not limited anymore to multi-billion-dollar budgets. They are limited by your imagination. And if you have a vision, then you can bring them in. And if you have a vision, you turn a laboratory into a digital laboratory, and you turn a digital laboratory into a digital workflow and educational ecosystem. And now with this expansion, with the digital productions that you're having, you're basically now sharing that gospel through the digital channels that we all consume on a daily basis, meaning you're making them palatable for us consumers to see what is AA Dental doing. And I congratulate you on this. This is amazing.
My friend, all I got to say is you inspire me even today. The things you just come up with, you start thinking, you think so like outside the box. I mean, it's amazing. I love hearing this because it keeps me going. I love it. I just love it. And like I said, one of the things about you way back when till today, till this very day, I remember one thing that happened when I basically told you, I have no idea. I have all these things in my head. I don't know what to do, where to go, how to do this and that. And you said, I'm going to send you a book. I'm going to send you one book. And that was called The E-Myth. I read that book and my whole life just changed. So, definitely it's a great read. It puts things into perspective. It actually changed my life, and I associate that to you. And in having what you just said today, you just put my whole, career in just brought it and made me understand it. I love it. So thank you. But that also brings to what you did, right? At the end, we've known each other for a long time, and one thing that you always said to me was, I want to create something that's my own. And you started Grow 3X, right?
Yeah.
With creating memorable experiences, right? Yeah. And that's something that I think that in our industry we needed, because if you think about it, Grow 3X actually started, right? When I first met you, maybe even before that, because that's who you were. You were someone that was always trying to create a memorable experience, even for us, like us lab guys, that when we would go to an event, you wanted us to remember that event. You wanted us to remember everything that was happening at that location. Yeah. So again, as you give me kudos, I got to give you kudos, because I know that Grow 3X is your baby. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think of my growth. And since I have Grow 3X as a partner in my laboratory today, there's so many things that I'm using that I don't even know if I would have used, in the past, to be honest with you. Yeah. I mean, even the course that's happening right now, it's all about, creating that memorable experience, using the products that's going to make their businesses better. Not just, the doctors that are there, but also the labs that are in that class right now. Yeah. And to be honest with you, the majority of the stuff that we're teaching, on workflows, we get them from you on your website. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty sick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And, the reality is everybody has to work. Yeah. Yeah. We all have to pay our bills. Yeah. And I think that's just, for most people the case. And my view on this is that, well, if I have to work, I might as well enjoy it. Exactly. And I might as well create it in a way that so that it becomes enjoyable. Yep. And that, of course, will only happen if you take initiative. Yeah. And in order to take initiative, you need to, free up your mind to some degree for some thinking time. And this, again, where the E-Myth came in. Yep. And the E-Myth helped me as well, because, the main line of that book from Michael Gerber is, work on your business, not in your business. Yep. And I believe this relates so much to our lab world, to our dental world, because we are all, whether we are a dental lab owner or whether we are a dental practice owner, we are usually very close to the actual production that is happening. Yeah. A dentist is usually, next chairside. If the dentist is not chairside, then most dental offices will not produce. If the laboratory is not the lab owner is not sitting at the bench, then labs will not go out at the end of the day as they're supposed to be. Yeah. And I believe it is very easy then to get caught in this daily grind. And if you don't find a way to break this grind, then you will not be able to plan on the bigger picture. And this is, my mission with Grow 3X is that I want to help laboratories to grow. And growth has a very different meaning for everybody.
Yep. 100%.
Everybody has a different life situation. Everybody has different financial needs, different financial aspirations. But most people, they have family. Most people, they have friends. Most people, they have just things that they enjoy in life. And it would be a shame, if all those things get absorbed by a mismanaged and misplanned career path
100%.
or business path.
That's what labs are. I mean, we used to work 24 hours a day sometimes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't go home, and that was our priority.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, you hit it on the head. If we don't plan that out and we don't understand it, I know how to make teeth. That's what I know. That's what my dad from Cuba, he basically showed up.
Yeah.
He said, look, this is what I make. This is what we do. This is how it works. That's what I was bred to do.
Yeah.
And again, I will say it till for the longest time. At the end, what you're doing today with your Grow 3X company, you've been doing it for so long because you can just see it. That's how you feel. That's what you believe in, and I can share it. I mean, you share it with me. Yeah. Like I said, I am a product of your belief system of how business should be.
Yeah.
Right.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I have over the years, over the decades, and everything that I've done before Grow 3X set me up for Grow 3X. All the learnings that I had, all the opportunities that I had, all the people that I met and enjoyed, they formed me, they mentored me, and they ultimately set me up to have the courage to start my own business. Because on day one, Grow 3X was nothing but an idea.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to start Grow 3X. And the next thing I asked myself is, what am I going to do?
You're going to fly to San Diego and we're going to go hang out at bars.
Exactly. And then I flew to San Diego. And we had a great strategy, kind of vision and strategy meeting. And that helped me, to get, a direction for the very beginning. And so my, I would say, ability has always been to maybe identify relevant products or items or workflows or concepts that could be beneficial, but since I'm not a dental technician, I can only speculate.
Yep.
But everything that I found, that I identified and I kind of pitched to you then, were curious and interested as well, and you started to test it.
Yeah.
And you then gave me the feedback that was necessary to say, hey, should I further pursue this? Or let's just focus on something else. And so it was kind of a, we are throughout our life together, we have kind of the partnerships that we had together, we had fed off of each other, and kind of elevated each other because we bounce off ideas. And I think this is another thing in our world, probably in the small business world in general, but it can be very lonely out there. In
your thoughts.
Thoughts.
It's crazy.
And if you don't have anybody to bounce off ideas that also then kind of challenge them, then you can, first of all, again, you don't enjoy it as much. Secondly, however, also you might easily end up on the wrong path because nobody challenged you in the early stages.
Exactly.
And so everything, Grow 3X, we started out with some smaller I think the very first product actually that we had were in-lab MCX5 milling bars.
Exactly.
And those were great bars. And those were certainly not, fancy or sexy.
But we needed burrs.
Burrs or products, but they were relevant.
Yeah.
And for me, what was important is now that I was a new company, everybody wished me well when I started Grow 3X, and everybody, said, well, Norbert is a great guy, and I'm sure he'll do well. But that did not mean that they wanted to work with
exactly.
me because, yes, who is Growth 3X?
Yeah.
So,
and how many years was that now? 5
this
years
is 6
now?
years ago.
Oh, that's 6 years
It's coming
ago
up.
since
We're coming up
you went
to
to San
6
Diego.
years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was important is to find products that allowed me to build habits.
Yeah.
Small, low risk, good quality products at fair prices,
Yep.
so that I had an opportunity through iteration, to get to know customers who are coming back and who are giving me feedback on what we were doing and how they were experiencing it, so that I had quick feedback loops to improve. And this then led to from the burrs, we then started adding 3D print resins.
Yeah.
But
But let me say something about even going back to our meeting, that we had. One of the things that really I saw a lot of value were the things that I, as a lab owner, did not know how to do or what to do. I'll use Comfy Smile as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was always thinking to myself, I want to get into a liner business. And we had this conversation, and you said to me, I said to you, well, what if all of a sudden and you were telling me about your idea. Hey, I'll have Comfy Smile and I'll give it to laboratories so that laboratories can offer, aligners. And one of the hardest things, and I kind of thought to myself, I was like, well, what if all of a sudden, I go get the 510K or whatever it is that you have to do to be able to sign all these things.
Yeah.
And you looked at me and you said, why do you want to go down that direction? Like, let me be that person for you. And that added so much value even into my laboratory at that moment, because I'll say it again. I wouldn't even know how to even get my laboratory, FDA approved for aligners.
Yeah.
You know what I would be doing? Probably what every other laboratory. Now, no disrespect, but there's a lot of laboratories out there that are just sucking down things, moving teeth on Blue Sky Bio or whatever, and then that's what they're using.
Yeah.
But I want to do things the right way, because you've always taught me is, we're creating a business, right? It has to have, workflows. It has to have, all these different things. And that's where I found that your Grow 3X opinions of creating memorable experience, doing all these things, was going to bring so much value to the mom and pops labs out there. Because you gave us the opportunity right now. I all of a sudden just started telling my clients, hey, I have an aligner company, Grow 3X.
Exactly.
Let's do it, and we have a website, just join here. And you gave me that power to not all of a sudden, compete in that space. Again, it all depends on how much, we want to put into it. But 100%, it adds value to your laboratory.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm offering this. My laboratory has grown so many, throughout the years because of adding something. Now, adding something, what does that mean? Do I have to create a whole department? Do I have to, do this or that? No, creating something by partnering up with Grow 3X, it gave me the ability to now add value to my doctors and say, hey, I offer aligners, and they're really cool. And it's a nice box. And it's really pink.
It's really beautiful. Hot pink, actually.
Hot pink. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this is because it is hot, and it's hot for a reason. Because, in the lab world, as dental technicians, as clinicians, we're very much involved in the production. We are very much involved in doing it ourselves. And with aligners, it could be very tempting, of course, for a laboratory that says, I have a printer, and I can do it, to just do it. But what would that actually mean? So let's say you have a case with 20 moves, and you say, I'm going to do this aligner case myself in the production. Then you would have to, at least right now, where still most of the aligners are being done through suck down, right? You would do 20 sets of models. Then you do 20 suck downs. Then you need to cut and trim those 40 trays. And then, you're going to put them into bubble wrap and ship them to your...
In a nice little zip,
in a zip
bag.
So you put in all this work for now, after all these hours, for actually very little profit, and with a very, very unprofessional presentation. Now, in the in the lab world, most labs, they are not very focused on branding their operation.
100%.
And despite of that, I would argue that in most, even a small lab, if you are, let's say, Norbert's Dental Lab, then with my clients, Norbert's Dental Lab becomes a brand. So to them, I'm Norbert's Dental Lab. And maybe there's some dentists who have been sending to me for years or maybe for decades. And they send to me because they trust me.
Yeah.
Norbert's Dental Lab is a trustworthy dental lab. And this is where the power lies, for instance, of Comfy Smile.
Yeah.
Because now with that offering that we are bringing, that Growth 3X brings to the table, you can continue to nurture the relationship that you have with your doctors, do great restorative work. And the moment you tell to your doctors, and we've been working so well together for the last 10, 20 years, and we are now also doing, aligners, there's probably very few doctors who would not at least give you a shot.
Exactly. 100%.
And this is what we want to bring to the table. This is what we want to offer laboratories who say, hey, I do not have time and I do not have space to in my day to really do much more production, but I do see opportunities to grow, and this is one vehicle that they could use to grow because they are the brand. The doctors will trust them. We will do all the treatment planning. We will do all the production. We ship them in a nice packaging to the lab.
Yep.
They will then ship them to the doctor, invoice it, and now have yet another reason why the doctor wants to do business with you.
100%. And that's the thing, is you're adding value.
Yeah.
That's where I really saw where Grow 3X was just going to blow up, because like you said, for what, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah.
At the end, it gave me value. It basically allowed me to do something that was added to the laboratory that would just grow my laboratory to to another level, not to the next level, to just another level.
Yeah.
And most of my clients, and another thing, it added value to what I believed in, digital.
Yeah.
Right. And so, my laboratory doesn't accept, analog at all. Right. So most of my doctors, if they send me, an impression, I'm not going to lie. I don't even have a model department. So the model's not going to look that good.
Yeah.
But when I was able to add it to all my docs, all it was, and it was cool the way that you did it too, because you added just a portal, that I was able to see all the cases that would come in. I'd be able to keep track.
Yeah.
All I was doing was just kind of monitoring it, which was really cool. And then the next thing I know, the doctor's in there, they're getting their answers.
Yeah.
I'm not an orthodontist. I'm not an ortho doctor. I'm not none of that stuff. So at the end, they had somebody there that was answering the questions for the doctors. And then the next thing you know, they would accept it.
Yeah.
It would show up in my lab.
Yeah.
I'm just shipping it out.
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing, because that was the first time that I thought to myself, I can add something to the laboratory that I don't even have to pay attention to in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because as soon as it came in, I only knew it was there because I would get an email.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant on your part, how you were able to do the legwork for us labs. Because that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
Every single time you've approached me with something, you've done the legwork, you do it for us, right?
Yeah.
You create it for us, and all you let us do is just tap in.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So we tap into Comfy Smiles, boom, just like that.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're doing aligners, and it comes with a nice little, whatever that thing is that it comes in.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is, but
the removal
looks,
tool. The removal
yeah,
tool.
thank you. That's cool.
No, this is exactly the idea. And along that same train of thought is the design service that we are doing now. The Growth 3X design service that is powered by Adite. They're doing a fantastic job. We are doing a fantastic job together to now give laboratories yet another path to focus on what is relevant. And again, to every lab, growth and relevance is different. So some laboratories, and I believe you are, for instance, one of these laboratories, they say, hey, we have a bunch of designers who are fully capable of designing everything that comes through our digital door into the lab. And we want them to do it. But there are times when there's simply too much coming through the door on one day. And in the past, it was basically that we are being backed up, that our technicians are getting stressed.
Yep.
We were getting stressed because everything, is just piling up and getting more and more. Now, the way you're using the design service is that you're saying, okay, we do everything we can until 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, we just keep uploading to the cloud. And then, next day when we come to work, everything is done. The cases that we designed in-house, plus the cases that we were unable to design that day. I think that is the beauty again, that, it fits your schedule. We have other clients who say, we want to be completely out of, let's say, the bread and butter stuff. Because we don't really have specialized designers. No. All of our designers are very good at design of doing, let's say, very high value work, right? So we don't really want to pile them up with bread and butter crowns. So those labs, they're saying, hey, all our crowns go out. So this way, our technicians can focus on the higher value generating cases.
Yeah.
And I think this is very smart.
That's also smart. I mean, look, at the end, you're right. For us, the first thing I thought about when you presented this to me and you said, look, this is what I want to add. The first thing I thought to myself was, well, this is actually going to save me money in a lot of ways. Because, we have a total, I believe, 6 designers that are basically sitting in the front line, right? We have a wall of designers. Now, the next thing I know, I have to buy ExoCAD, I have to buy 3Shape, I have to buy, Real Guide, I got to buy this, and that. Now, if all of a sudden I get an influx of cases that come in digitally, right, which we do all the time, right? I mean, we average, I was talking to our marketing department and our sales department, and they said that we're averaging now anywhere from 3 to 5 new accounts a day.
Wow.
Right? Opening up an account. Now, whether or not they send, well, that's their job to, make sure that they send. They hear about digital and then they send. But if you start thinking about all that work that's coming in, now think about if you have 6 designers that are designing 8 hours a day, right? And how much each design station costs me. Yeah. Now, if I add another 6, right? Now that's double all the licenses I got to buy, the computers that I have to buy, because now you can't buy just an ordinary computer. Now you got to get geeky and buy the gaming computers, and you got to do this and that. And at the end, now I have to sit there and hope that I'm going to be able to train them. I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to do that. The first thing I thought about when you said that you were going to do this was, okay, well, wait a second. So how can I all of a sudden, use them in a way where I don't have to expand? You said it perfectly. Every time you come here, I have a new section, or I'm building something, or I'm doing this. That costs money. Yeah. And do I want to do this all the time? No, that means I got to buy another building, or I got to buy a whole new row, or find something. And again, my association with Growth 3X has shown me that I can always depend on something from you that will help my production move forward. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because not just with the design service, right? Like I said, with the comfy smiles, with materials, with products, with a lot of different things. But that design service, and one thing that I will say about the design service that I really like, you're 100% right. I am a believer that if I'm going to pay one of my designers what we pay them, and we pay them very well here, because I don't want to lose them. Yeah. Because that's very important. If you have a design, back in the day it was, how many layers of porcelain, right? Right. Now it's like, hey, I got a good designer that understands digital. I'm not going to lose that. There's no way that I'm going to lose them. But to be able to say to myself that I can basically rely on you to give me the backup that I need, that's golden. Because if I was to talk to a one-man lab like you were just talking about, or a two-man lab, I would sit there and say, wait a second, you got a designer that knows how to do these beautiful big cases, and they understand it, and they know how to do it quickly. Why would you want to basically give them a single unit? Yeah. When you have softwares out there like your AI design module,
Crown AI.
Crown AI, yeah, sorry. Yeah. I forgot what it's called. Crown AI, you can basically hire a high school kid, upload, download, and then have somebody just check it. Yeah. because again, we understand that we're a dental technician, or I'm a dental technician, and I know from my dad, he was always the best, right?
Yeah.
Whatever he did, that's the way it needed to always go. And that's how most laboratories out there think,
Yeah.
And so at the end, but think about that. Why would you want to waste good talent in doing, single units?
Yeah.
It's like having a great ceramist sit there and pour up models.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how I see it. I mean, I would almost say that there's like this unwritten contract that I see between the laboratories, our client, our partner client laboratories, and ourselves, and that is that if they grow, we grow.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
If we do everything in our power to introduce new products, new workflows, education at fair prices, where we have price transparency, we strive to be the price leader. We want to have the best prices, but the idea is that I know that if they do well, then we will do well.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
It is 100%.
Yeah. And that's kind of our guarantee to the laboratory is that, we want to do everything to make them successful because that is good for both of us.
But 100% agree, because that is even our model at the lab, right? I'm looking for partnerships. I'm not looking for clients. I'm not looking for customers. I'm looking for a partner.
Yeah.
A partner that understands digital, number one, that I can talk to, in the same kind of mentality, or as my good buddy Daniel Vasquez used to say, right, that we speak the same language, right?
Uh-huh.
If I can basically say to my partners, right, hey, listen, we're gonna try this new workflow, like all on fours, right?
Yeah.
This is how we're gonna do it. I want him to be like, all right, yeah, let's take that next level. We just had, yesterday we were doing a class, and there was different levels, right? There was a high end, doctors there that understood digital. They got like 5-axis mills, all the way down to a doctor that only had, a scanner.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just see the mentalities of doctors, right? Well, in a lot of ways, our laboratory wants to stand, like you just said, right? Where can I be there for you when I need you?
Exactly.
It's the same mentality that I have.
Yeah.
For our you'll remember back in the day when all of a sudden we were educating, and Sarah, the labs would look at us and say, what are you doing? You're going to give away the keys to our labs. You're teaching these doctors how to stain and glaze.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at it that way.
No.
I looked at it how I see it today, and how most of my clients, do business with me. I don't want them to do business with me because I'm the cheapest, like you just said. I don't want them to do business with me. I want them to do business with me because they want to partner up with me. And on weekends, if they're here, I want to go hang out with them, go to the wineries, do this, talk shop, and then get back to business. That's the people that I want to do business with.
Yeah.
And what I learned even yesterday, and I thought about it last night, and this morning when we went in there and we were welcoming everybody back because they were doing the hands-on portion of the all-on exits. I mean, you think about it. Back in the day, we used to teach people how to stain and glaze, so that they could make their ceramics better. Yeah. Now we're teaching doctors about all on X, right?
Exactly.
And how they can make their all on X, chair side better.
Yeah.
Who does that help? That helps, that helps the laboratories, the doctors, and really it helps the patient to give them the best service, because we're like this. We're basically joined at the hip when it comes to our workflows, when it comes to what our belief systems are, how our partnerships are, everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, and that's what I love about Growth 3X, and that's what I love about our partnership.
Yeah, exactly.
The next thing that was kind of cool, and like I said, the things that you just keep throwing in there. I said to you one day, I said, look, man, I'm looking for a flexible partial that I can print. I'm tired of milling, all these things. Well, the first thing you did, which was funny, when I told you I need to find a material that I can mill like a flexible partial, because I'm having issues with Valplast. I don't really know about Valplast and what's going on, but I tried to buy the printer, then COVID hit. I couldn't get the printer. I didn't know what happened, so I needed some solution. We were having that conversation. Next thing I know, you're like, hey, just go onto my web shop. I get on to grow3x.com. I go on there. Boom. Oh, there it is. Oh, I can buy pucks now. So now you added that. And that shows also that you're listening to your customers.
Yeah.
I know we're buddies, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We used to hang out in Costa Rica, jump off boats and stuff like that. But you treat everybody the way you treat me. We're all friends, right?
Yeah.
But at the end, all I'm saying is that you added that. But now we were talking because we were hanging out in Chicago. No, I don't know if it was in Chicago or in I think it was at the LMT. I don't remember where we were, but we were walking around, me and you, kind of looking around, and we stopped. And I said, "Man, I need that flexible material." And I remember there was a little booth there, and I grabbed it, and I was like, "Oh, let's see if this thing." And I snapped it. Remember? Bam.
Yeah.
But what was cool was you went on a quest, right? Well, was it a couple months later?
Yeah.
I think it was. You called me up and you said, "Hey, have you ever heard of Hay Gears?" And I was like, yeah, I've been hearing about it. And they got this flexible material.
Yeah.
Check it out. Next thing I know, now I bought one.
Yeah.
We just took a picture in front of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now I just added even more value because you listen to your customers to the point where you went, you did the legwork, you put it out there. I mean, what better partnership than that?
Exactly.
And the next thing I know, I'm already there. Okay, boom, let's do this. That material has been pretty sick, in my opinion. Again, it was really easy. Just I went on there, ordered it, and showed up.
Yeah, and it's a great company to work with, and they have great support, ethos or ethics. Actually, I heard about the company before I even knew I heard about the excellence of their service. Before I even knew the products in detail, but I have a very good customer in Florida who has always been raving about how good their service was, and that is endorsement, and I think this the fact that I get influenced from positive endorsement through others is just a testimony to we all do get influenced. And so this is good. I think if we do good work, then sooner or later it will come back and do its own good work. And it also feels good. But no, this is basically what led us to adding this a line of printers, and I believe this is a very nice addition. But in more broader terms, now Grow3x, 5 years, 6 years almost into our existence, we now have enough repeat customers who are coming. Some of them are coming back every day to order something. Some of them are coming back once a week, once a month. But the fact is
the free shipping is, pretty cool.
Many people, many people, they're coming all the time. And now is the time basically for us to also extend our offering to equipment. And in addition, to the printers, we have a great relationship with Adite North America. And we have now, over the last year and a half, we have installed a bunch of Adite milling units, which is again a great value. It's highly performing machines. Many of our clients that I have, because of my past, they still have an old InLab MCX5, and those InLab MCX5s, they're coming to the end of their life, and many of them have now started replacing those machines with an Adite zirconia mill. Whether this is a single disc or a disc changer, these mills nowadays, they are a fraction of the price that what people bought back in the day, for an InLab. But then again,
no, but they were workhorse. I mean, I still have my 5, and they're workhorses. But it is 100% true. We got to go to the next level.
Exactly.
And now I have two Adite mills, and they're amazing. And I was able to incorporate even my workflow just to be able to use all my mills. And then plus the new ones. And it was simple to just integrate everything.
They're great machines. But then again, what gave me the confidence to add those pieces of equipment, because equipment is almost like a marriage, If you sell a zirconia disc, that's a transaction. Yes, a daily, a weekly, a monthly transaction, but a piece of equipment, that is a long-term relationship that you then form a bond with. And I was a little bit hesitant before, before I learned about the ADITE equipment. And the ADITE equipment is backed by ADITE's people. And Thomas Using, we've been going back decades almost now, and he's the general manager of ADITE, and he has turned this company, into a customer service company like there is hardly any another example. And so this is what I'm looking for. Before technology and products and quality and price, all these things are important. But in the end, it's the partnerships that back up these products. And whether this is, with us, where we have such a great relationship, where we can talk about things, and where if things are great, we celebrate the greatness and see how we can get to the next level. Yeah. If we hit a road bump, then we see how we can overcome that road bump and get back on track. Yeah. And that's also how we pick our vendors, how we pick our partners, because you need to have this entire business that we are in. We all pay, hard-working dollars for whatever we buy. Yeah. And I think we all have a right, and we need to be confident that whatever happens, we deal with people who care.
Yep.
And everybody that I am working with, whether this is our suppliers, or whether this is the lab partners, they seem to be all people who care. They have a bigger goal than simply just, knocking out a cheap piece of something.
Yeah.
And that's
Or
fun.
just dropping it off.
Yeah, and that is rewarding, that is comforting, but it is also rewarding.
No, yeah. I agree. And like I said, so I have two of those, and they worked out good.
That's great.
One of the main reasons why I even started this was because I wanted to start meeting and talking to my companies that I partner up with, and sort of share, to everybody, right? To sort of share and sort of say, hey, look, this is how my company, my laboratory, works with this company. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, in a lot of ways, we're going down a path where, you hear, different things about, this company and that company. It usually comes from a sales guy.
Yeah.
Or a saleswoman, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because we get to have a voice, right? That's why I made this investment to be able to get out there. And so we were talking about, even before we started, we were talking about, something that we got going on, right? Which is the summit in Charlotte, right? And
but hold that thought. Actually, there's one thing that I wanted to add before, and that is, that care, that is associated with each and everything. I think that transpires through each and every product, through each and every project that we do. And in digital, obviously software is king, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays, the in-lab software used to be the driver for everything that we did. Yep. And many of those in-lab users, they have now started adding additional software. Yeah. You and I, we have basically looked at the market, and we felt that ExtraCAD is a great software.
Yeah.
And I said, I would love to be an ExtraCAD reseller, but just like with equipment, also with software, it is important that you have somebody who cares, who shows me how to use these things, and who backs me up if anything happens. And I said, I would love to do it, but I can't do it by myself. Yeah. And this is why I'm so excited. Why I was then so excited that you and I got together, and you said, education, this is what we do.
Yeah.
AA Dental Academy is all about education.
It is, 100%.
And I know how good your education is, and I said, that's a no-brainer. Yeah. Now we have ExtraCAD through probably the best. We used to kid. There is some many nationwide. Digital trainers who are training in all kinds of institutions that actually come to your trainings, to AA Dental Academy trainings, in order to get trained. And
that is 100% true.
And I think this is fantastic. So now we have basically.
We should have taken some snapshots.
Yeah, right.
And then posted it on. No, I would never do that.
Yeah, but no, and I think this is important. And so education, becomes so critical for the different products, but then also in general. And I think this is what you were just leading up to.
Yeah.
Now, how educating on the bigger picture is just so relevant.
It's important. I mean, 100%. Like I said, when you were just talking about exocad, we go way back. We were educating, laboratories, how to use the system, how we use it here at the lab. People would call me, hey, how are you doing this? Okay, well then come down.
Yeah.
Let's open the doors. Let's do it. Because the way I looked at it 100% too was, if I'm going to invest in if I'm going to invest in digital, then I also have to help, everybody else. Because if somebody did not have a memorable experience, right, with a workflow, whether it be in lab, whether it be exocad, whether it be 3Shape, whether it be whatever, I needed to make sure that I helped out, right?
Yeah.
Not just on the doctor's side of things, but also on the lab side of things, right? Because again, the way I looked at it was, we want digital to be king. That's what we want. That's what I want, right? Yeah. And if I don't create some kind of education, and I'm not going to sit there and say that when I educate, I know everything, right? I mean, I spend a lot of time, working with exocad, working with 3Shape, working with RealGuide, working with all these, while my technicians are doing, so I can teach them, so that way they can be the best that they can be for the laboratory. Yeah. But it's 100% true with what you're saying. That education that even you have decided to take on, or I'm sorry, not the education, the software that you decided to take on, it had to be that partnership too, because we want them to succeed as well. But that goes back to your core and then my core kind of coming together and saying, okay, let's make this great for everybody.
Yeah.
And let's make it doesn't matter, who's here, doctor or laboratory or whoever it is, technician, whatever. And so that's where, as we were about to, kind of talk about, that's where all of a sudden this summit comes in, right? Because we want to make sure that whenever, back in the day when you used to do the in-lab summits, right? Yeah. I could tell you my friends, my dental lab owners, my dental technician friends, my doctors, they thought it was always the greatest thing, because you know what? You let us, and I'm going to say this because a lot of people think, even for me, a lot of people associated me and saying, they would use words like, "Oh, you're in bed, with in lab, or you're doing this, or you're doing that." Right? Every single equipment that I have in there, I purchase it just like every other customer. I never ever got anything. But that's not the point. The main point on this is that at the end, I believed in what I was buying as a customer. If I didn't like it, I didn't talk about it, right? Because I had other companies that would come to me and say, "Whoa, Frank, you have a voice, you have this, you have that." Okay, no, I don't care. I got to believe it because I'm not going to go out there and tell people, "Oh, yeah, don't do this or buy this or whatever," just because you think that I'm in bed with somebody or I'm paying somebody or getting paid or whatever. And in reality, I want to be that customer first. Right? Because I believe that if I'm the customer first, I can give, our industry the best that digital brings to the table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And when we were talking about this, we know that All on X is something that I've sat there and sat through lectures where, companies use, or not companies, I would say lecturers, whatever. And again, I'm not here to say anything bad about anybody. Everybody does what they do. But at the end, there's scare tactics, as I call them, right? Oh, this sucks because, this and that. And we were just talking about that earlier about, the evolution of, let's say, All on X, where it started. We Chat GPT did, right? Because we needed to find out. I didn't know the year. I knew it was coming. And then Chat GPT basically told us, which again, I got introduced to Chat GPT because of you, because of your marketing summit. Again, for laboratory, that's a huge thing. I don't want to sidetrack on the marketing summit. I mean, the other summit, but this summit, I mean, the marketing summit was so important for us as lab owners because it taught us what we needed to do to be able to get, to grow our businesses in the way that we want to grow it. Some people want to grow big. Some people want to, just be, efficient. And I thought that summit was great because you were showing us. ChatGPT was part of that. That's when I learned it. Well, we just found out, when All on X is, kind of hit, why we can't call it All on 4, stuff like that. And so what I'm seeing today in the industry is, or what I'm seeing when I go to all these lectures, and I'm part of it, right? When I go out there, all I see is, oh yeah, your scanners suck, and this scanner is better than that scanner, and my other scanner, And I'm sitting there looking at these doctors, and I'm just like, man, you guys, they're confusing you, and they're scaring you, and then the next thing you know, like you said about why you got into exocad, because you knew that you can rely on me, because you knew that I'm kind of one of these geeky guys that will sit there in front of a computer on a Saturday night trying to figure out, how to create, I don't know, a crown or something, And I think that's what I was sitting there and I was, just thinking about, right? While these events are going on and I see the confusion, not just in the doctor's face, but I see it in the laboratory's faces too.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I called you up and you said to me, hey, I'm going to do a summit in Charlotte in October and I want All on X to be the topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, man, I want to get involved in this on 150% because I think that we should show the reality.
Yeah.
The reality of All on X. We need to show, not even the reality. I'm not going to use the reality. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that there's a workflow.
Yeah.
Right? And I see online all these, I would say, individuals that are angry because they're not using, let's say, the right screws or what they envision as being the best screws or the best scanners. Or, whether or not, I've seen stuff where, people will say, well, yeah, you should load it the same day or you should do, all these things. And I'm sitting back, as a laboratory owner, just thinking to myself, okay, wait a second. So I have a doctor, I got a friend of mine. I'll even say it was his mom's case, and his mom's, comes in, he looks at me and he's like, my mom, she doesn't want to, be put through so much, So, Frank, what if I send you all the scans and I'm going to do the surgery, we plan out everything out, right? As I call it, the 4-step, process here, right? We got to make sure that we treatment plan everything, come out with a plan, surgery, what we're going to do with in time of surgery. Then, of course, after the healing, how we're going to handle that. And then, of course, the final, that's what I call an all on X, the 4 steps of it. But you need that partnership. You need to be able to communicate with the doctor. You need to be able to communicate with the patient. Yeah. Because you're getting married to this person.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end.
Yeah.
And he called me up and he says to me, hey, can you do this and have it here by tomorrow? Don't worry, I'll load it tomorrow. I was like, yeah, doc, don't worry about it, whatever you need. Because on my end of things as a laboratory, sometimes I have a customer or a partner that needs something of me. Maybe it's a little bit outside the box, or maybe some companies out there are teaching it and they're charging and they're saying this. But this is a real person, right? That maybe can't sit there all day.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, the only reason why I bring this up is because all this, and it's made me mad, right? And it did make me mad. All of a sudden I see a post online where then it said on there, hey, whoever is doing next day, right, doesn't know what they're doing. Okay. Maybe that's true. I don't know. Maybe it is. I'm not a doctor, so I can't sit here and say the whys. I'm a laboratory owner that has partners that ask things of me, right? Can you design for me? Yeah. Can you have it there the same day? Can you have it there the next day? Can you have it there whenever they ask me to do it? Yeah. Now, am I a loser because I got to say to the doctor, no, you will force that person to be there and that, this and that. No, I got to basically be a good partner here and understand for whatever reason that is. And that's what you're seeing right now. It's kind of driving me crazy a little bit, right? Yeah. And I think that at the summit, I think that that's what we need to start bringing in together. Not just basically talk about why this is better than that. Let's just talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's bring everything to the table. While this is a workflow. This is how it works. We're gonna take that all on X. This is the scanners that can do it. Not even that. If there's a scanner out there that there's a workflow, let's talk it out. Let the customer make those decisions. But not make the decision because they're getting scared. Oh, I can't do this because I was doing a lecture and we were talking about and when I do a lecture, I talk about all the things, right? Because I'm a laboratory. I sit in Switzerland. Do I believe that iCam is better than PIC or micromappers or this kind of screw or that kind of screw and all this stuff? Listen, at the end, I get a phone call from a doctor and the doctor says, hey, I have an iCam. Can you do it all on X? I'm going to do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If a doctor says to me, oh, I have IO Connect. Can you do the all on X? I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, you know what? You just kind of got ripped off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So we need something like that. We need to have a summit. And I believe that's why you were so good at these summits, even the marketing. You pay attention. We bring this together.
Yeah.
Man, this summit's going to be bad.
Exactly.
Charlotte, you got to be there.
Yeah.
October 10th and 11th.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, I think that you just gave a speech, so to say, on authenticity and on reality.
Yeah.
And I believe that, those people who are lifelong learners, they know that today they're better than yesterday.
Yep.
But they also know that with their efforts of improving upon themselves, they will be better tomorrow than they are today.
Agree.
And in next year, they will be again better. Yeah. And I believe recognizing that this all is a journey is the most important aspect. And that there are no absolutes, because even the best absolutes that we could bring to the table today will probably be minusculed by what we will have in 5 years from now. So all we can do is we can try to educate ourselves to the best of our capabilities.
Yep.
And also that we look at, what are the realities of each and every scenario, because, and you all know this, all the cases that come in, all the patients that the doctors see, everybody has a different reality.
Yep.
That can be a different financial reality, that can be a different attention span. So like with the example that you just gave, that maybe there's a patient who just does not want to or cannot dedicate enough attention to the ideal case. So there you need to treatment plan to those patient-specific needs.
Yeah.
Sometimes it also then depends on, the conversation that we have in a partnership between the lab and the office about what is possible in this case as opposed to what is possible in that case, because it might vary again from scenario to scenario. Exactly. And these are the things that we want to cover in the summit, because in the end, many of us, we need to kind of build that airplane in flight. If let's say if we were engineers building airplanes, we are building airplanes in flight. And so we need to improve and modernize these airplanes while we are flying, under full steam. And this is what we're trying to do with the summits. And then again, you mentioned something very important just now, that you only teach what you basically have experienced legitimately yourself.
Exactly.
And that you need to make work. And this is knowledge, I believe, that is invaluable for everybody else, because you're basically you're basically a research lab in that researches and then implements and iterates in real life. And you have high volume in your laboratory, which means you have a lot of iteration, opportunity for improvement. And what we were trying to do at the summit is we are trying to, for one, bring the best case, the state of the art as what we can find right now that can be practiced, that can be used in a laboratory. We want to present these aspects. But then we also, and for that we will have keynote speakers and keynote lectures.
Nice.
But then we'll also break it down into breakout sessions. So after each one or two ballroom style keynote sessions, we bring the air walls down, and then we have 3 breakout sessions on different topics, so that people can go based on their preferences and attend and maybe get some hands-on in this or that topic.
Yep.
And I believe that this is where the beauty of our summits come in, that we alternate between this let's say theoretical scientific knowledge, and then go into a practical hands-on session. Then we go into work groups where we discuss things. We have Q&A panels. We have a VIP evening reception on Friday night.
That's my favorite.
It's going to be sponsored by Adite, and we're gonna hang out and we talk shop.
Yep.
We'll have Jonathan Ayala there to video all the sessions, and then we'll have some footage for later use, for education again. And we'll have a good time. But I believe, again, creating memorable experiences is not just one big bang somewhere. There needs to be different accents throughout the event on different levels, on an emotional level, on a professional level, on a scientific level.
Yes.
And this is what we're trying to deliver.
A little bit of everything.
Yes.
On that note, brother,
thank you so much for having me.
thank you for coming down.
This is awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
You like my new place.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying?
Spectacular.
All right,
I'll be back.
For sure.